Good. So let's go straight to the point of today, which is going to be like 3 ways we can operate when we do the things we do in life, right? And especially if you are an overachiever and if you want to aim for big things, this is going to be super valuable because you're going to discover where are you operating from and how to switch to start operating from a, let's call this a higher level of consciousness that is going to allow you to get more and to do more and accomplish more by doing less in many occasions. All right, so let's start with 1, 2, 3. The first point is if you are doing this from ego, okay? So if you are doing this from ego, it means like there is most likely an unconscious pattern that you haven't fully acknowledged and recognized and healed that is still operating on you and is still functioning on you, and that is making you take actions that are not always conscious, and therefore like you might run blindly somehow. And this is connected with what this psychologist Carl Jung expressed is like until you don't make the unconscious conscious, it will run your life, it will guide your life, it will operate your life, and you will call it destiny. So the point of this, we are going to use my personal example because it's one that is the one that I know the best and is the one that I'm learning from as much as possible. So in my case, we have two main wounds and triggers that are the ones that activate this small ego or this like tiny ego that needs to defend itself from the things that are going on. So first one is rejection, and second one is recognition. So what happened with these two? And this is very easy to detect because in many occasions it's just associated with negative feelings that are going to pop up in you and that you're going to be like very clear and very noticeable in different type of situations. So for example, this happens to me. There is these two life areas which are like money and women that are the ones that trigger me this the fastest and the most clear. So if I'm doing sales and I get a no, a rejection, that hurts. If I'm doing a follow-up of sales and I never get an answer, then I get hurt. So both of these, rejection and recognition, and especially on sales, when it's combined, which is like I don't receive an answer, and when I go for the answer and the answer is negative, then the pain that I feel is combined, right? So then it's like there is something going on in my life on the past which was like, okay, at some point I wasn't felt accepted, and at some point I wasn't felt recognized for my efforts. Thus I just carry this baggage with me that is going to pop up to the surface, that is going to trigger my negative emotions in different circumstances. And with women it's just the same, like, and this is for so many males on the planet, like if a woman rejects you, then your ego might pop up to try to defend itself, right? And it's like, no, I didn't like the girl so much, or no, this wasn't that important. Or if you don't feel recognized, the same, like if a girl ghosts you, you feel hurt because, oh, this girl, she wasn't high value, or she wasn't worthy enough, whatever. It's like, no, brother, like what if, that's like, hey, number two is like, let's call this self, okay? What if these two things or whatever your triggers are, because where the triggers are, information and feedback and growth is beyond, right? So here we have like the triggers, which, just by the way, like we all have different triggers depending on how was our upbringing, right? So for example, to me, if someone tells me something negative, like the thing that I do is shit, it's like fine, like it's like I don't care, because I have reached a level of healing on my own life and a level of awareness where when I receive negative feedback, it fuels me, or I'm very open to go and get this feedback, right? I'm very open to say like, okay, please tell me more about this. Why do you think it's shit? When a rejection happen and recognition happen, like lack of recognition, it's more difficult for me to go and say like, okay, thank you, please. Why? Please tell me more. Please, I want to understand. So this is actually the huge benefit of acknowledging how your ego is behaving and acknowledging what are the triggers of that are activating you. Because when you get to recognize these triggers and the triggers pop up, you can control your emotional response, in many occasions unconscious, and then you can go and ask the person, thank you, please explain me more. Why? What led you to arrive here? And this has been super extremely insightful for me, because when I facilitate the experience of playing camp, I might propose an exercise and some of the participants decide not to engage in that game that I'm proposing at this time. And I'm like, you know, like 1 year ago, that hurt me. Like, okay, why this person didn't want to join in this game? Like, it's one of my favorite games. But it's like, when I hear to the feedback at the end of the playing camp, people go like, it was my own process of learning how to say no. It was my own process of learning how to listen to myself. It was my own process to understanding my limits. It's like, and it has nothing to do with me, with the game, with anything. Most of these triggers have a lot to connect with the life of the other person. You know, if it's a rejection, it's like maybe you are like connected with a characteristic of the father or whatever, or maybe they just miss your message and then they forget because they have like 100 things on their life. It's like nothing to take personal, you know, and this is what the ego does. Like the ego is going to take all of this stuff personal and think like, no, it's because of me, it's because of, it's like, brother, just ask questions, you know, like ask for feedback, you know, you ask the questions and you will realize how much information is there and how little is connected with you taking it personal. However, you can actually learn from that and connect with self, and I call this self because let's call self this is like a more healed version of ego, okay? So, and we are going to get a bit more spiritual in the next one, so just bear with me. So self is like, what is your best version of yourself? Like what is, you know, some people say your higher self or your ambitions or the person that you need to become to actually manifest and embody the dreams and the visions that you have, you know. So this is self, and I'm going to share like a recent experience that I have when I was taking some psychedelics with a friend, and then we were doing this breath work exercise. So I was like breathing really heavily and intensely, and then like shouting out a lot of stuck anger and negative emotions. And at the end of the exercise, I was just standing with all this magnificent presence and all this super empowered presence of achievement and accomplished. And I have been listening quite obsessively like different podcasts related with history and with important historical figures, and some of them are like Alejandro Magno, Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Napoleon. So at some point I was able to connect with this feeling of Julius Caesar while being on these mushrooms. And after the breath work, after I took a lot of this pain outside of my system, I was able to connect with this healed self, which was like the best, most embodied person of my potential, right? And this is like, let's put here your potential, or actually a better word, because today I was speaking with my therapist about this, is like true potential, because true is a word that we are going to use in the next point. It's like, you know, once, and the example of my therapist was really good, was really on point. Is like, if you take a person that is on his job, on his daily life, with his habits and his it, and you put him in these crash course coaching programs of 3 weeks, of 3 days, you know, like a weekend program, it's like they are going to kind of brace him. I mean, it's brainwash, you know, because at a certain point you're washing the brain of this type of bullshit about the ego, and you're connecting that person with his true potential, with his highest self. The point is like, you know, the person is like, okay, I got this. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit my girlfriend. I'm going to find a new girlfriend, follow my passion, become a millionaire, whatever. It's like, yeah, but if you come back to your previous environment, you're going to repeat and you're going to be remembered of these ego things and your smaller ego patterns. It's like, that's why we were having a conversation about how to build your true potential yourself in a way that is sustainable and in a way that is progressive. So you're actually eliminating these patterns in a conscious way and not in this unconscious way of, no, you can do it, you can do it. And then everything goes out and then, wow, yeah, you're in your highest self for 1 week. And then you regret yourself because your ego comes back even stronger, because it's going to tell you like, yeah, you're stupid. Like they took your money, they brainwashed you, you quit your job and now you are in shit. Because you are not able to actually embody this true potential for a long time, because you didn't train, because your habits weren't right, and because of other 1,000 things, because you didn't heal basically, right? So this is the power of healing, which in many occasions is just bringing higher level of awareness into this. And the point is that it takes a bit of time, you know, it just takes a bit of time to develop this level of awareness, which in our society we always want everything quick and yeah, let's heal in 1 hour and everything is solved forever. It's like, whatever, sometimes it takes a bit. However, this is very interesting, it's like you might get in contact with this true potential, and sometimes it's through this psychedelic experience. And there is this sentence from Huxley who says like, beware of the knowledge that you didn't earn. And this is related with psychedelics. It's like sometimes things come to you and you were not prepared, like these coaching sessions or these psychedelics, and you didn't earn them because you didn't went through the process of awareness and healing. So they might come back reinforced. So what happens when you contact with your true potential? And this is another state that you might be able to access or not. So just to connect this with a theory of different levels of operating in the universe, we have here the victim mindset or the victim mode, where life happens to you and negative things happen to you, and why everything has happened to me, like why all these things, so why nobody's calling me, you know, victim. And then you have here the manifestor, where you are the one taking action and responsibility and empowering yourself from the situations in your life and from the outcome of your life, and you're actually doing the actions yourself, because you know that when you do the actions, you take responsibility, you now are going to operate from this, you know, you're going to heal yourself, and then you're going to go closer and closer to your true potential. Therefore, you're going to start manifesting the life that you want, but you are in control here. And this is nice, this is beautiful, like many really good things happen here. And the next level is the channeler, okay? And for the channeler, we could egoless or self. Ego death is nice, and selflessness is nice as well. But let's call it flow, okay? Let's call it flow for now, because this is the state that has been most studied on the literature. And something interesting that my therapist said today is like, we have researched flow as a temporary state of consciousness, like a cognitive state of consciousness, where you can apply unconscious cognitive resources into the solution of a problem or into the performance of a series of tasks. However, what if flow is actually a state of high awareness, you know, so this awareness just get increased, and we just increase our level of awareness in a way, and this is where it gets a bit spiritual, so bear with me and take as much as resonates with you depending on your set of beliefs. As for today, it's like, how much of this is like you eliminating your ego and eliminating even yourself and just connecting with an untapped level of information that is out there, you know, that it might be on your mind, in your brain, or it might be outside. And this is really interesting, like, what if our brain, I'm going to try to make a brain here, what if our brain there is a theory of this, it's called non-local consciousness, which is like we have this brain, and the way it works is like it taps or it connects with this non-local consciousness, and therefore a part of this non-local consciousness is what is entering in this body, and it's like, okay, this is the consciousness that I can understand now. But what if when we start entering these levels of flow and these levels of channeling, that we connect with a layer of information or a field of information that we normally don't connect to. So, and this requires like the amount of information that goes through it requires the self to disappear so the information can flow throughly, right? And the metaphor that we were using was like when you have like your arteria, your veins are full of cholesterol, right? So I mean, if this is your arteria, your veins, and they are full of cholesterol and junk and stuff and like the flow of blood is not that big. So let's call like the ego is eliminating this stuff, so now it can flow better, right? So then you can say like, it's still like, what is the self in this metaphor? Like maybe the self is the vein itself, but the flow is maybe the blood, you know, which is like all this amount of information. But even one step beyond is like, what if you are not? You know, what if you are not even the vein, not even the blood? It's like, what if you are just this thing moving? These layers of information and these bits of information moving through you. You know, so the more you take out of the equation these concepts, the more you can tap into hidden potential that you are even not aware. And this is what has been related with the truth, like the truth of who you are, you know, which is like this limitless consciousness that can access to everything, you know. And to which point, this could be interesting to research in a more scientific way, to which point you can alter your identity, and your identity based like in a more materialistic sense, your identity in a more brain neurostratal way. How can you alter this when you enter into this state of consciousness? And how can you prolong this state of consciousness? And why I'm saying this, so I mean, for me, explaining this was quite a flow experience, but in many occasions, there is this image of the guru that he's just speaking, you know, and in many occasions, this guru, he just goes there, he doesn't know what he's going to say, he just sits and talk. And then people go like, wow, so wise, such level of wisdom, like how did he arrive to these truths? And he's like, yeah, maybe he just took off his ego from the equation, took off himself, and through years of awareness training and meditation and reading, like all this accumulated information was just processed on the unconscious mind and somehow connected, let's call it, somehow connected to this non-local consciousness field. And then through that, it happened that the speech that he gave was the truth, and was such a powerful, intense truth that was able to connect with the self and ego of those people that were listening to him. And this is how can you become a channel. And this is how you can actually do more by having a smaller effort. Like the more you force it, in many occasions you might be a manifesting, or you might even be a victim. Like the more I do, the worse things happen to me. Like what's happening to me? I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, now I have control, now I receive the right information because I ask for feedback and I ask questions, so now I can manifest better because I'm operating with higher quality of information. But what if the next level is like, now I'm going to surrender, now I'm going to open up, now I'm going to learn how to enter into flow states through different meditation exercises, and I'm going to ask to the universe. You know, we don't ask for feedback anymore, we just ask the universe like, okay, and there is different exercises for identity also, like you ask with questions, with lofty questions. Why is it so easy for me to make this type of presentations and share these difficult concepts in a way that are understandable and easy to follow? Why is it so easy for me to bring new clients into Playing Camp? Why it is so easy for me to share my truth? Why is it so easy for me to grow an audience that is interested into developing their consciousness by understanding psychology and spirituality. And through these type of questions, then different parts of your psyche and your mind are going to start working and operating into allowing different information to run through your field of consciousness and learning how to tap into non-local consciousness field. And that's it for today. I believe this video is shorter than the other ones, and I believe it makes sense. Please write your questions, please comment different authors, different ideas. What do you think about this content? And I'm really willing to make this a two-way conversation. I wouldn't like to be just preaching. For me, it's more like sharing what I've learned through the years, and it helps me make better understanding. So I hope it helps, guys, and see you in the next one.